Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So here I have another 10 pens currently inked up for this week. So I think let's just briefly go through these one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Visconti Opera Master Golden Dust. We have a Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide. We have the Visconti Opera Master Luna. We have a Visconti Opera Master Corvina. We have a Visconti Opera Master Stardust. We have a Pelikan M1000 Varden Starlight. We have an Atelier Lusso Carina Gravity. We have an Atelier Lusso Carina Amethyst Fields. We have an Atelier Lusso Andromeda Hurricane. And last but not least, we have an Atelier Lusso Andromeda Vulcan's Forge. So let's go through these pens in a little bit more detail. So this is the lovely Visconti Opera Master Golden Dust, and this was a pen that I had a little bit of a problem tracking down. I didn't even know that this pen actually existed. I picked this up off of a seller on eBay who didn't want to sell it to me. They only wanted to sell it really within the USA. So I had to ask a friend and a retailer to try and buy this for me, which he did, and passed it on without actually charging me anything for it, and put it in a box with a number of other pens I was actually purchasing from him at the time. But this is a really beautiful pen, and technically I got this from Chris at Truffet. He was the broker for this pen, but you can see here it's a limited edition of 60, and this is number 3. So this is a really lovely pen. I do love the material on this pen. I was really after the Visconti Opera Master Tobacco, and that is a beautiful pen, and strangely enough, just after I bought this pen, lo and behold, somebody was selling a tobacco. But I decided, you know what, I had a lovely pen here, and I actually like this pen more, so I decided not to buy the tobacco. And that's been a decision that has maybe been haunting me a little bit ever since. But I do love this material. So this is a Visconti Opera Master. So it comes with a 23 cat palladium nib. This is a fine nib, but you can see in the size of my hand here, it's a really nice size. It comes with the ink window as well. It's a power vac filler, so it's a pen that I really do like a lot. I didn't like the fine nib to start with on it because I'm not really a fine nib person, but I've actually become more accustomed to it. And then there was this one, and this one is the Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide. Now I have the gemstone on here as well. This was a very, very difficult pen to buy or to pick up because this was sold out everywhere. And I had been looking for this for about a year. And then I put a few adverts up on FPN, Fountain Pen Network. And other websites as well. I think it was Reddit, PenSwap, and somebody that I actually knew in Australia online had seen a pen available and messaged me about this one. And this was in the US, and I had to again get Chris to help bring this over for me. So technically I did get this from Chris at Truffet. He brokered the deal and was able to ship it to me with a bunch of other pens. But this was a very, very nice pen. I do love this pen a lot, and you can see here these swirls are really quite captivating. This is a pen that I'd always fallen in love with when I originally saw it from Brian Goulet, and I really wanted one of these myself. So I'm really glad that eventually I was able to pick this up. The only issue that I had with this one is it came with a 1.3mm stub nib, and at that point I had not used a 1.3mm stub nib. I had a 1.5mm TWSBI nib, and it wasn't bad, but these ones come with tipping on, and I would have rather have had a medium nib on this, but to be honest, I do love this stub nib. So I'm glad I picked that up, and actually that made way for getting more stub nibs. So this one is the Visconti Opera Master Luna. And this is a Goulet exclusive, and I absolutely love this material. It's a beautiful blue material with some glitter inside the body of that material and the cap as well. And it is very, very sparkly. It's a pen that I really do like. I'm glad that Brian and Rachel Goulet were able to pull this off with Visconti. All these Opera Masters come with the My Pen system, and it's a Paravac filler, and again you've got the ink window here. And I decided that I would get a 1.3mm stub on this, because after getting the Opera Master Crimson Tide with a stub nib, I really started to enjoy stub nibs. So I got that with a stub nib, and then that also opened up for these ones, and these are again Visconti Opera Masters. These are the Truffet exclusive, and I got these from Chris. And this one is the Opera Master Corvina, and this is a beautiful sort of red, sort of cracked, sort of almost like a popcorn type effect going on there. It's a beautiful, beautiful pen. And again, this comes with the 1.3mm stub nib, but you can see here, the size of my hand, this is actually a really good size. So I do like that a lot. So that one I have inked, and this one as well. So this is the Opera Master Stardust, and again, this is another one from Chris at Truffet. But you can see this has beautiful sort of stardust effect going on with a ruthenium black coated trim. And again, this is a beautiful, beautiful pen, again with a 1.3mm stub nib there, so that is really nice. And again, I do like these Opera Masters. I like the size, I like the weight of those pens. And then we have the beautiful Pelikan M1000 Radon Starlight. It is a maki-e pen, the Starlight, and it's a beautiful, beautiful pen. I absolutely adore this pen, and it's a pen that I was trying to actually get hold of for a number of years, and these were long sold out, but I was able to pick it up this past Christmas time. So this was my Christmas pen for 2019, and I've been writing with it ever since. I did miss, after I sold my Pelikan M1000, initially it was just the standard green stripe version, but I wanted to get another one, and when I saw this come up, I decided I would buy it. So I'm really glad about this. This does come with a Pelikan M1000 medium nib as standard. But you can see there the size of the pen in my hand is a really nice size. It's a piston filling pen, whereas all of these Opera Masters are Paravac fillers. And it holds about a milliliter of ink. It's a really good capacity pen. It's also a very wet writer as well, as most Pelikan M1000s are. And then we have the Atelier Lusso Carina, and this is the Gravity. And this was my first of two Atelier Lusso pens, and I've had many more since. But I love this sort of like inky swirl going on there. And as with all Atelier Lussos, or at least all of the ones that I have at the moment, these are all cartridge converter pens, but this is a beautiful pen. It's quite light, and I just like the pattern. I like the material. It's just beautiful pen. So I have this one inked up as well. And then another Atelier Lusso, Carina. This is the Amethyst Fields. And this was one that I actually did ask Eric to I basically asked him to see if he could make some pens for me out of material that I've chosen, and he said he could. So I started looking at some websites, and I found this lovely material, and I wanted something that looked like the Earth from a topographical sort of space approach, and have the Earth and have some clouds in it. And this is a pen that I really like. So this has got a bit of chatoyance going on there. You can see there the L for Luso, although Eric's now changed that to a dragon. But again, these are all cartridge converter pens, but they're very lightweight. They come with Yovo nibs. I've got broad nibs on all of these because I like the Yovo broad nibs. But for me, that again is another nice writing pen. Now, the second pen I got from Erica at Atelier Luso, I got this one and I got this one, and this is the Andromeda. And again, I wanted something that was really reminiscent of sort of from space, sort of looking down at Earth with the blue seas, some of the land, and I love the look at this. And so I really wanted this in a pen. So the first two pens, this one and this one here, this is a Carina, this is the Andromeda. These were already pre-made, so I didn't pick the material on these, but this is the Andromeda Hurricane. This doesn't have any finials. It's a very cylindrical pen. Has a little bit of a thinner section here. Again, it's a Yovo broad nib, but it's a really nice size, and a cartridge converter as well. But for me, I do like writing with the Andromedas. And then we have, last but not least, this Atelier Luso, and it's an Andromeda as well, and it's the Vulcan's Forge. But this really is a beautiful, stunning pen. So for me, again, this is a pen that I do like writing with a lot. I did ask Eric if he could get some sort of cap finials on here, and he put an Alpha Luso, which he has now changed to a dragon. But this, again, is a really nice pen. I absolutely love this material. And the story behind this was I wanted a pen that had a lot of fiery orange in it because I wanted to write with an orange ink. And I tend to write and mix ink colours to pen colours a lot. So for me, I wanted a really bright fiery orange, and this was one of those. So I'm really glad I was able to pick this material out, and it came out this well, this good, because it is a beautiful, stunning material. So that's all of the pens that I have currently inked this week. Let's go and do a writing sample. So the first pen we have here is the Visconti Opera Master. So I think let's do an ink swatch. So we'll do that here. Now this is a fine nib, so it's going to be more on the Western Fine side of things because it's a Bock nib. But this is a Visconti Opera Master, and it's the Golden Dust, and it's a fine nib, and it's a 23 carat palladium nib. Now the ink in here is Jeheben, and it's Lee de Tay, but that is a beautiful ink. So I do like writing with that ink. It was one of my earlier brown inks, but it's an ink that I like writing with a lot. And then we have the Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide. So we'll do an ink swatch here, but you'll see that this is a very gushing nib. And this is how I like my Visconti, strangely enough. Very, very wet. So this is the Visconti Opera Master, and it's a Crimson Tide. And I always put a red ink in here. So this is a stub nib so 1.3mm stub, and it's a 23 carat palladium, but you can just see how much broader this nib is. And then the ink in here is Diamine Wild Strawberry, and it's an ink that I do love a lot. So that pen, I pretty much now exclusively ink up with that ink. And then the next pen, again, is another Visconti Opera Master. And again, it's another stub nib. So you'll see here that this really is, again, a broad nib. I'd say maybe not quite as wet as the Crimson Tide, but I'd say it's almost as broad. This is a Visconti Opera Master, and it's the Luna, which is a Goulet exclusive. And this again is a stub nib, and it's a 23 carat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is the ink that actually comes with the pen, which is Visconti Blue. But that again is a nice blue. If you want quite a deep blue, then that's actually quite a nice blue ink to have. And then the next pen, again, another Visconti Opera Master. So this is do an ink swatch first. Again, another 1.3mm stub nib, so quite broad. So this is the Visconti Opera Master, and this is the Corvina, which was a Truffet exclusive, and again it's a stub nib, and it's a 23 carat palladium nib. And then the ink in here also is the ink that actually came with it. It's actually Visconti Bordeaux. And I think I have probably got some oil from my hands, because I had washed my hands prior to doing this, because I had some ink on my fingers, which is still there actually. Didn't come off with soap, so I think some of that soap may have actually got onto the page, causing a few hard starts there. And then the next pen, again, another Visconti Opera Master. So this is, we'll do again another swatch here. This one is actually getting a bit low on ink, so I think I might have to just re-ink this one up. There you go, it's a bit more ink there. And this again is a Visconti Opera Master, and this is the Stardust. And again, it's a stub nib and a 23 carat palladium nib, and again the ink in here is Visconti Bordeaux, because this was the ink that came with the pen. And then we have this beautiful, stunning Pelikan M1000 Warden. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now this is a medium nib, but it's actually quite a wet nib, and there is a bit of a bounce to these Pelikan M1000 nibs as well. So this is the Pelikan M1000, and it's the Warden Starlight, and it's a medium 18 carat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Franklin Christoph, and it's Spanish blue. And you might remember, if you watched my unboxing video of this pen, I wasn't sure what ink to put in there, and I'd actually inked it up with Lamy Blue, and I was going to try and put a different colour ink in there, and I thought, well, you know what, I haven't been writing with blue inks a lot lately, and I do like that Spanish blue. So I thought I would just ink it up with that, and I've had that inked up ever since. And the next pen is the Atelier Lusso Carina Gravity. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, strangely enough, this is a Jowo broad nib, but you'll see here it's not quite as broad as that Pelican. So this is the Atelier Lusso Carina Gravity, and this is a broad steel Jowo nib, and then the ink in here is Lamy Blue, which is a lovely blue ink. And the story behind that ink is that I wasn't into Lamy inks, and then I think it was Pure Pens had a bit of a sale. They wanted to get rid of their Lamy inks, so they had them on almost half price, and I went and bought a whole load of Lamy inks, and I really do like the Lamy inks. So for me, I think that's a perfect match. And the next pen is, again, another Atelier Lusso Carina, and it's the Amethyst Fields. So let's do an ink swatch. And again, this is a Jowo nib. It's a broad nib. Now, these Jowo nibs, because they're still broad nibs, they tend to be quite rigid or stiff, but I do like them. They are very consistent, good writers. So this is the Atelier Lusso Carina, and this is the Amethyst Fields, and this is a broad steel nib, and the ink in here is Diamine Marine, which is a really lovely sort of greenish ink, almost like turquoisey ink, but it's a really lovely colour, and I like that a lot. And then the next pen is the Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and this is a Hurricane. So we'll do another ink swatch. And again, this is a broad nib, and this is the Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and it's the Hurricane, and it's a broad Jowo steel nib. And then the ink in here is Ackerman. It's a Dutch Masters, and it's Cerulean Bleu van Vermeer. And that's a little bit more of a sort of a blue black. It's not as sort of blue black as the cobalt blue from Ackerman, but it's a nice blue ink. And then last but not least, we have the stunning Atelier Lusso Andromeda Vulcan's Forge. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, I'd have to say there are two orange inks that I love a lot. Actually, maybe 3 or 4, but two that I would really say are a fiery orange that have quite a bit of shading. And one of them is Noodler's Apache Sunset, although that can be a little bit on the lighter side. And then there's this one, which is Sailor Gentle Apricot. So this is an Atelier Lusso Andromeda. It's the Vulcan's Forge. and it's a broad Jowo steel nib, Jowo being the brand of the nib, and the ink in here, as I've already mentioned, is Sailor Gentle Apricot, and that is a really lovely orange ink. So I think let's just go through the pen and ink combos one more time. We have a Visconti Opera Master. This is the Golden Dust in a fine 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with J. Heban Lee de Tay. We have a Visconti Opera Master Crimson Tide with a 1.3mm stub 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with Diamine Wild Strawberry. We have a Visconti Opera Master Luna with a 1.3mm stub 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with Visconti Blue. We have a Visconti Opera Master Corvina with a 1.3mm stub 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with Visconti Bordeaux. We have another Visconti Opera Master, and this is a Stardust with a 1.3mm stub nib, and it's a 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with Visconti Bordeaux. We have a Pelikan M1000 Radon Starlight in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Franklin Christoph Spanish Blue. We have an Atelier Lusso Carina Gravity with a broad Jowo steel nib, inked up with Lamy Blue. We have an Atelier Lusso Carina in the Amethyst Fields with a broad steel nib, inked up with Diamine Marine. We have an Atelier Lusso Andromeda Hurricane in a broad steel nib, inked up with Ackerman Dutch Masters Cerulean Bleu Van Vermeer. And last but not least, we have the Atelier Lusso Andromeda Vulcan's Forge with a broad steel nib, inked up with Sailor Gentle Apricot. So that's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.